Welcome back to Close-Ups.
And this is our final chapter on our retrospective on John Gellerman's King Kong.
Here's to the big one.
I thought Richard Klein's cinematography was phenomenal. You know,
It's beautifully shot, and it's very, very lush. Um, there are times where, like you said, the green screen is or whatever what green screen
blue screen back then. Yeah,
was kind of painful at times. Um, and like we'd mentioned earlier about the snake fight, I wish they would have just done away with that altogether.
right. And you know what? As much as I get angry about the Rick Baker, Carl Rambaldi thing, the reason I get mad is that he got slighted. And I sent you that clip where he talks about it. On the news. I was like, why would you keep that snake thing in it? And then you watch, not even 5 to 8 years later, Conan, and you see how that snake was improved, and the snake was phenomenal. I
Uh-huh.
think they did a great job, and that was De
That
Laurentiis, and
was
I
De
think that
Laurentiis
was
as well. I mean,
yeah,
like, we just kept getting sucked into De Laurentiis's web as kids in the '70s because you had Kong, you had Orca, you
yeah,
had you had Flash Gordon, you had Conan the Barbarian. It just kept going on and on and on, and I kept getting pulled into the De Laurentiis orbit, and then Christ, Giada De Laurentiis winds up being one of my favorite people to watch on the Food Network, for Christ's sakes.
yeah. I mentioned that to Bonnie, so she loves watching those, and I was like, you know who she is, right? And I think she's got a sense of really, like, she's a very classy woman. People talk about how Gullerman was temperamental. If you were to hand that film off to any sane human being and supposed to turn it around in 12 months, less than, I could see how you'd lose it. But do you know who he lost it on and almost got fired over? Do you know
No,
who it was? It
nuh-uh.
was Dino's son. I think
Really?
I think it's Federico Fellini, not Fellini, De Laurentiis. And do you know he was an executive producer on the film?
It was.
His
Federico was?
son, yeah. I don't know why De Laurentiis is just a producer on it, and the other one's executive. I think maybe something shifted since then, but
That
yeah,
happens a lot. I think that happens a lot. Like, I know it happened with the Fayeds whenever they did, with, Muhammad and Dodi Fayed on Chariots of Fire.
yeah.
It seemed like the same thing happened with the Salkins, with Richard Donner on the Superman films.
Did you know that Dodi Fayed produced my mentor's film FX2, and that he came
Yes.
to me? Yeah,
Yes, I did.
he came
Yes,
up
I
to
did.
me. Say again?
Yes, I did, because I watched The Crown just recently and, rewatched The Crown just recently, and when it got to that section where they're on the set of the beach run of
Yeah,
Chariots of Fire and Dodie and Muhammad are sitting there, and I'm like, "What all did they participate in?" And I pulled up everything that they were producers and executive producers, and I was like, "Son of a bitch, I didn't know they were involved in that."
right. He had this big RV, and they call it the Batman RV. And I was on set, and like behind me, there was a Panavision camera and a subjective point of view of a taxi going in towards the lens, and it had a stunt guy. So I was standing right next to Richard Franklin, director of the film Psycho 2. He's my mentor, and I'm rolling camera on it, and suddenly the car won't stop. And I start hearing screams because they'd wet down the pavement, and it starts sliding, and it hit the damn Panavision camera with all these, like the
Oh,
cinematography on it and the AC. How they didn't get killed, I don't know. But Dodi Fayed came up to me the next day. I was rolling. I was sitting right next to Bill Condon from Gods and Monsters, and he was the scriptwriter on it. And we were just talking as Richard was rehearsing a scene. And Dodi comes up and goes, "I'd like it if you could turn the camera off." He's like captured the accident, and then they called me and says, "We'd like very much that video of yours for insurance because suddenly the film magazine had disappeared. Like no one wanted to know how the camera
Oh,
was ruined. And then ironically, maybe 5, 6 years later, he ended up,
he's
in a
gone.
car wreck. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
You
some of
know that?
no, I had no idea that you had a direct interaction with him. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, I was very fortunate man, and I'm very fortunate that Richard Franklin came into my life. He was there when I started to go out to the desert to shoot my first feature, and he passed away right before I got a chance to share it with him. He loved westerns and he loved Hitchcock, so I think he would have dug it. Um, and yeah, I've had a very fortunate life to been around these people.
And it's just so ironic that here we are talking about the film that basically lit that fire in your belly,
Yeah.
that put that spark in your chest that made you want to pursue this. Is that it I I just find it so incredibly ironic that that I consider you such a dear human being. I love you to death, Brett.
Oh man, thank you. Thank
I love you to death. And it's so weird how many parallels our lives have.
you. Yeah.
Maybe we discussed this in the first podcast that you and I and our wives did together a couple of years ago
Yes.
about, how strange and coincidental these things are. And it all comes back to this freaking film that for whatever reason completely took our breath away.
Hmm.
As well, you said you were 9. I think I was 6, 7, 7. I just turned 7
So
in
you're the
October.
age I was when I saw Jaws, and that's when it hit me that I knew what theater of mind could do. The strength of actually directing something. But then once you reveal something, it better be strong and it better hold your attention. And that's what they did on Billerman's until you get to that turd the big giant robot that should have been cut out and the snake. But like I say, is cringeworthy moments, whatever. It's still stepping back from it, watching all the Kongs. It was at one point because like we had that Kong poster on Ain't It Cool. So I'm really I know Harry has that kind of same love that we do, but he's he loves Peter Jackson and I don't he loves King Kong the original. That's his favorite. He has the Kong bomb that was in our show.
Hey folks, Harry here in my awesome basement with my awesome Kong bomb. Now you might ask yourself, what is a Kong bomb? Well, in 1933, well technically it was about 1932, Robert Armstrong pulled this pin, then threw this Kong bomb at Skull Island. It exploded, smoke came out, knocked out King Kong. They hauled his ass to New York where they shot him off the top of the Empire State Building and then blamed Fay Wray and her beauty for killing the beast.
This is just the one that grabbed a hold of my heart and my imagination and how to kind of to make a film. I mean,
Mhm.
so many parallels and things that he did that I was doing before I actually realized it. Like holding off, how you set up a sequence, how you reveal, and then when you do reveal something, how to hold on to it, how to get these performances that are visceral and emotional, and then the tragic side of it. Tragedies are not a big favorite among Hollywood producers. I never want to play it too safe, and that film did not play it too safe, and I love it.
No, no, it didn't.
I just wish they'd given him like another 2 months and it would have been perfected, right?
Mhm.
But that's the beauty of it. He got that thing made. And another thing I feel for him is that he didn't love all his films. He has that quote about I've made, X amount of films. I hopefully one or two of them are pretty good,
And I've never understood the I don't know if I would just call it a flat out rejection of the public at large of this film. I've never understood it as to why there just seems to be this, oh, that movie's just it's so forgettable. And to me, it is absolutely the opposite.
Yeah,
As much as I like the 1933 King Kong, I love this movie.
yeah.
I always love this movie. I always will love this movie.
And I'm not gonna lie, I think it's the best looking of all of them, and it doesn't look 100% like a gorilla. It looks more like a mythological kind of, you know. I think that's what makes it where I can fall for the love story of it a lot better than just Silverback. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know that when we first introduced this idea, we were basically just going to review the disc and
Yeah.
just give our thoughts on uh on the release itself, on the re-release of this. But uh when we started talking about it, the further that we dug, we realized that it needed to be a lot more than just a review of
Yeah.
it, of a physical release. And the fact that you've got such this deep personal connection to Gillerman, it just seemed necessary. And it was required that we needed to dive a lot deeper into this, and I'm glad that we did it. And we could probably wax poetic on it for hours on end, but
True. True. Now, I feel it was very serendipitous that, and I'm very honored that Mary asked me to contribute to that book. You know, they have some very well established authors involved in that, and that's one of the first times I've actually contributed in a book. And I don't think that there's anyone that would champion John. I think there are a lot of people who would champion, but I don't think anyone would have completely been able to kind of see from his point of view as a director, you know. And so that
right.
I'm sure we missed a lot of things that we love about this film, from the actors that we like to, you know, whatever. But I think that John was underappreciated, and I think this film's been underappreciated. And honestly, after the Legendary Pictures, I think that it's reestablished itself as for me, it'll always be my favorite. Kong, the original, will always be the first, and it's understandable why people would make it their favorite, but this is my favorite. And I do think the performances in this and the heart and the execution are the best.
Yeah. To me, this is, and this may be considered blasphemy by some people, but I think this is the definitive Kong experience. Because
The big one.
it truly is, you know.
Here's to the big one.
That's there's so much that should be said. You know, there are moments in this film that have just stuck in my head forever, that will be stuck there forever. There are bits of dialogue that I've quoted that have nothing to do with being in the situation that they were in, but it fit the situation that I was in at the time. And it gives you an appreciation for character development, character actors. You know, this thing was this film was filled to the brim with really impressive character actors. Not a lot of leading men. I mean, the only real leading men there were Grodin and Bridges.
Yeah. But those character actors are phenomenal, man.
Yeah.
Was it Renee?
Renee, yeah. God rest his soul. I mean, so many of them are gone now.
So funny.
You've got Jack O'Halloran. The whole scene where he's like, "Oh, so I suppose you have to undress her." Well, of course.
Yeah.
To rule out any internal injuries. Get out of here.
Yeah.
John Randolph, the captain of the ship.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Most people would know him from You've Got Mail.
Yeah. Ed was I think he was in Papillon, but he was definitely in Hitchcock's last movie, Family Plot. And it was nice seeing him ask questions like, "You said something about marrying her," you know, and he's like, "I don't know, Carnahan. I'm just as ignorant as you are," you know.
But asking me so many dumb questions.
Yeah.
He just got just straight up pissed at Carnahan.
Oh yeah.
Poor Carnahan, the last guy to go off the log.
Who was the last guy to go off the log?
Carnahan. one that died. I mean, because it was Bo.
Julius Harris. Julius Harris was great.
Julius Harris, God bless him.
Yeah. They were just phenomenal, you know. In the 70s had some of the best character actors.
Well, and think about what Julius Harris was probably best known for.
What is it?
Tee, Live and Let Die.
Really?
Yeah. He was
darn.
with the little mechanical hand thing that was Yaphet Kotto's right hand.
Well, I gotta rewatch that one.
Yeah. He was kind of like the odd job character type in Live and Let Die. And then
I gotta watch it again. I think of him as doing this line. Just he didn't have to say anything, just did that, you know.
Bode, where are the others?
And then
Gary. It's like, do you really think he's gonna make it through that wall? And the way Bo just kind of looks at him like, yeah.
Speaking of which, I guess you want to end on some of our favorite moments, like imagery. Like I think one of the coolest is after he gets through the wall, and there's all that smoke, and then the arm kind of comes up for a moment.
Raises up out of the smoke.
Isn't that beautiful? It's just beautifully surreal, and it can go back down.
That is a phenomenal shot of his arm coming out, and the natives, you know, coming out of their hiding places to look.
Very perfect music, you know,
to look at their fallen god that's been taken down by this, this nefarious jackass that was just there to make a buck off of them. And
environmental rapists.
Yeah, even kids would burn every Petrock station from here to I can't remember where he said the locations were. I should know this, but Bridges is, to me, the anchor of this whole thing. As much of a comic relief as Grodin was, it's what really made me realize who Bridges was. It's the first thing that really drew me in to his filmography, because I mean, honestly, this was my introduction to movie going.
It's weird, and I don't think anyone really thinks of Jeff Bridges and Kong. I don't even think of him.
And they should. I mean, he pretty much carries the thing, you know.
And it's weird. I don't even think of him because it's like he was still trying to find himself as an actor, you know. He's not Starman, and he's one of the best actors out there. Let's get real. He's a phenomenal actor.
And he's Hollywood royalty. I mean, you know, he's surrounded on all sides by well-known actors, and arguably he wound up being the biggest name of all of them.
Yeah, right. Question: you got a favorite quote from it, like a line, right?
Well, it's a bit of a long one, but it's the exchange between Prescott and Grodin's character
outside the wall.
And I've actually got it queued up here. Let's see how well this comes through, but I'll go ahead and play it for you.
Let me straighten you out on a couple of points. One, this wall is an ancient ruin. Two, the island is uninhabited.
Three, there's an uninhabited German beer hall in there with a mechanical band.
They're shot in Hawaii, and this film, I'm glad that you brought that up, predates Spielberg with Jurassic Park, which was also shot in Hawaii. Jaws predated King Kong with a robotic shark, but Dino took it way overboard trying to make it, basically a building move, and that was his big pitch while they were having the Paramount and Universal Pictures were having the big legal battle.
Right.
Is that their cons gonna be different? It's gonna be robotic, which it was, and it went like this for 3 seconds to stink up the film for a second. But so its ambition actually was carried through, and you got now the Tyrannosaurus Rex in Jurassic Park, which is a much bigger creature, and it does work. So their ideas were ahead of their time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what I like and I dislike is that I don't think Gullerman gets the recognition that he should, but even Spielberg went to the same islands and shot in the same locations, and that location with that quote right there with the wall and all that, that's Hawaii. And Gullerman was the first guy to really shoot anything epic there, you know?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure the movie Hawaii may have shot some locations there, but they were flying people in. They almost got trapped there. Gullerman and some of the crew almost got trapped there during a hurricane or something.
Which also happened on the filming of Jurassic Park. I think
Yeah, which is so
Hurricane Nikki hit
remote.
Hawaii whenever that happened, I believe.
My favorite line, I don't know all of it, but it's the whole sequence and the way it just kind of sets the stage of the entire movie. It's from the wedding with the creature who touches heaven, Lady God preserve thee.
Mm.
And the reason being is that's the introduction of our stowaway, you know, Jack Prescott, right?
Yes.
And he's got to have huge balls, be just breaking in and just in the middle of Charles Grodin's speech, say, "Nah, you're wrong on that. There's a big giant monster there, and you're not going to see this monster for like another 40, 50 minutes or whatever." But the way the dialogue's executed, the way the camera's moving, the way he goes from in the back trying to eat something real quick because he's been stowing away to walking in front and taking the show over. And then the next sequence is this whole thing with the fog banks after, that the way that's executed, that music leads to the fog bank stuff. It just, that dialogue says it, but then just the pure cinema of Gullerman with all the fog banks shot practically, not with CGI. So people were out there with drums of smoke here and there around Malibu or, off of, I don't know what other island it was, but 3 different islands I think they shot that off of it. And it's it's just one of the most epic, magical kind of moments. Once the veil drifts away and you can actually reveal the island, you're just in. I'm in on this movie. I don't know when I'm going to see Kong, but I'm feeling it. I'm in it.
Yeah. You were invested in it very, very quickly. I know I've heard people have an issue with the fact that they showed the title card over the ship. I'm like, what are they supposed to show? They're not gonna show the dadgum gorilla at the beginning of the film, you idiot. I mean, you didn't get anything. You just, maybe they were upset that it wasn't just because I guess Peter Jackson did the same thing that they did in 33. It was just this really ornate looking title with nothing beneath or around it or behind it or anything. It was just a title card.
Yeah, and that kind of it does date the film in the sense that you have to have a little bit more mature mind. Like Jurassic Park starts out with the raptor scene where the cage and the guy's thrown around. Just basically, it's a dinosaur version of Jaws, where
Yeah.
swung around.
Yeah.
And you don't have that. You don't have 5 seconds or 5 minutes of, oh my God, people running from something that you don't see, like you might in Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer, I think, did do that, and that would work for an audience now. But I applaud the fact that I never got bored. And then once you meet or you see Kong, and you reveal him after tearing down all the trees and all that, and the build up of music and all this stuff, and then finally cut wide angle, low angle, and you see him beating on his chest, looking down on his bride. It did not. It delivered.
Yeah.
I was not disappointed.
The fact that you completely held the attention of 7 to 10-year-old little boys who grew up on a steady diet of frenetic,
Yeah.
Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck bouncing off the walls and Mo, Larry, and Curly beating the crap out of each other. You were able to get them through 45 to 50 minutes of dialogue, and you had us. You had us by the short and curlies the entire time. Is impressive to me. Is impressive to knowing that I was that kid in that theater and I was just transfixed.
And you wanted to go back and see it again.
And again. And
Yeah.
again.
And I waited until it was on TV, which wasn't very much longer. It was maybe like half a year or a year later or whatever. And we have VHS, and I watched it over and over and over again. The reason why I became first chair clarinetist, I mistakenly thought the saxophone in the bar scene was what a clarinet was. And my dad knew I loved the composers John Barry and Bernard Herrmann, so he said, "Yeah, it's like the music you like." So I was playing clarinet, not knowing it wasn't going to be the sexy saxophone that will get all the girls, whatever. But
well, Brett, this has been a trip. I mean, this is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I've been telling people that it's a project that's a true labor of love for me because, you know, even though I had nothing to do with getting the film made, I feel like it's just such a. I mean, you have flown much closer to the sun with this film than I have, since you actually, you know, intersected with the with the lives of somebody that was directly involved with it, and I can't imagine how that must have felt, how that
That
must feel for
I'm
you.
very honored. I'm very honored. And I think Mary Gillerman, and I'm so glad that my wife and I, we we follow our intuition, and it always seems to lead us to the right places. And we we know when someone special comes into our life, just like I knew when we met. You know.
Amen, brother. Likewise. Well, if by chance Mary sees or hears this or whatever, and I hope that maybe somehow she does, um, thank you. Thank you for uh and bless your husband
Yes.
to eternity that he was we were fortunate enough to be in his orbit with the creation of this thing. And uh I've got nothing but respect for everybody involved in it. And I can't thank them enough for making this such a part of my childhood and a part of my life. I have no regrets, none whatsoever. It has never been and never will be a guilty pleasure for me. Just a simple pleasure.
Well, I can tell you right now, I just realized what we just did is what I wanted to do when I first reached out to him when I was directing Ain't It Cool. So I've finally been able to do, and I did do it in the book. I was able to champion him that way. But you and I were able to uh, very thoroughly, and I mean, I'd go on for 2 more hours, but there's so much about him and the film that needs to be championed, and I'm glad that we were able to do that together.
Maybe we just need to give Gillerman his own show, separate from Kong, and just heap praise on Gillerman as a filmmaker, not just for making this film, but for making every film he makes.
Absolutely, absolutely, and he's got a beautiful roster of films, so let's make that happen.
All right, sir.
All right.
Well, thank you, Brett. Thank you so much for being a part of this and for for supporting my uh I don't know what you would call it, my obsession.
Passion.
Knowing that you and I share a passion and obsession with this film that
Yes.
that goes back to when we were just wee little nippers, and and it's still like I'm hearing the score in the background, and it's raising the hairs on the back of my head,
And
and
it's always done that, and it's done it. The film's 40 something years, and it still has the power to do that. And it says everything, doesn't it?
it
Says
really
everything.
does.
Yeah, it never gets old. All right, brother. I'm thrilled that we got a chance to champion them.
Absolutely, sir.
This was the big one.
This was the big one. Yeah.
Here's to the big one.
We'll say it again. Thank you, sir. Take care.
Thank you.